This is LSAT Prep Test 133, Section 4, Passage 2, about Kate Chopin's literary development through the three phases of 19th century women's fiction, medium difficulty passage. Now, this is a humanities passage. It tracks how Chopin moved through three literary movements: sentimental novels, local color, and the New Women, and came out the other side with something none of them fully account for. The main point is that Chopin absorbed each phase, but her major work transcends all three. Now, the most important paragraph here is the fourth one. That's where the passage reveals what Chopin actually built from all these influences. Everything before is just laying down the groundwork. Now, paragraph 1 is just the timeline. Chopin grew up on sentimental novels that were elevated and romantic, all about courtship and social position. Then she started writing and took the local colorists as her models. You don't want to linger here, just lock in the sequence. Sentimental novels first, local color second. That is the foundation the rest of the passage builds on. Then paragraph 2 is about the world the local colorists were writing in. Women's culture, meaning women's growing presence in education, professions, and politics that had been expanding. The local colorists wrote about regional life as these new worlds opened up. But then that culture started to disappear. And when women's culture faded, the local colorists stopped observing and started mourning. The garden became a paradisal sanctuary. The house became a symbol. Domestic objects became almost sacred. They went from acting like anthropologists, that's the passage's own comparison there, by the way, to writing mythology about a world that was vanishing. So that shift from clear-eyed observation to idealization is something you're going to see in the questions for sure. Now, paragraph 3 is where Chopin breaks away from the pack. She's using the same local color conventions, but telling completely different stories about loneliness and isolation and frustration. And the passage is careful to say she did this without resorting to the excesses of those sentimental novels from her youth. And so Chopin threaded a needle here. She wanted real emotional intensity, but refused to go melodramatic. She could tell shocking or melodramatic tales, but still keep them grounded because she wrapped them in local color's matter-of-fact style. And that balance is the whole point of the paragraph. It doesn't really matter what Chopin wrote about, just that's how she pulled it off. Now for paragraph 4, you want to slow way down, because this paragraph does pack in a lot, and the hardest questions you're going to pull from it. Chopin did not share the local colorist nostalgia. That one line clearly separates her from everything in paragraph 2. By the 1890s, she's looking beyond them to the New Women. The passage then describes what the New Women did. They pursued freedom and innovation. They changed the novel's form. They made room for fantasy and stories about totally different worlds. They also experimented with impressionistic methods to explore female consciousness. Now, the passage says Chopin embraced this impressionistic approach more fully. So that phrase, more fully, means she took the New Women's own technique further than they did. And then the passage tells you what that produced. A novel unified not by style, not by content, but by its sustained focus on the protagonist's psychology. That is the destination here. Chopin landed somewhere past all three movements. Now, the key move here is that Chopin is never fully inside any one camp. She passes through each one, takes what serves her, and then keeps going. The sentimental novels gave her emotional range. The local colorists gave her technique and restraint. The New Women gave her impressionistic method and ambition. But her final work is not part of any of them. As for the author's stance here, that is straightforward admiration. Chopin is presented as being deliberate, someone who consciously evolved past each influence. The main trap here is pinning her to the last group mentioned. Because the New Women come at the end of the passage, it's tempting to read her as being basically a New Woman writer, but she's not. The passage says that she went further. So you want to watch for choices that collapse her into any single movement, or that describe her as rejecting one group entirely because she borrowed from all of them. Now, before you hit the questions, you want to make sure you're clear on these three things. First, what exactly changed about the local colorist's writing when women's culture started disappearing? Second, how did Chopin manage to write about extreme emotions without falling into melodrama? And third, what does the phrase more fully tell you about Chopin's relationship to the New Women? Is she one of them, or is she past them?